Everybody, bring it in 55 minutes until the weekend kicks off, and we're getting after it here on The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. So I'm EmersonLotzia. I'm asking like really hard-hitting questions here, and I'm going to bring the fire. I'm going to bring the fire today, just like Mac Jones did on the sideline last night. Wow. I'm telling you, Duval dudes, Jacksonville guys, we're just built different, okay? Before we get to best bets and DFS plays at the World Cup, NBA, NHL, let's dive into a fun little segment of NFL High or Low, shall we? With Pierce Dietrich and Jeffrey Ulrich. Jeff, last night, my God, are the Bills back to being their dominant selves, or are the Patriots just broken?
I mean, I don't know if the Bills ever necessarily went away from being a dominant team. They just had a little bit of hiccups in game. You know, Josh Allen dealing with a little bit of elbow issues. I mean, defense has actually endured quite a few injuries this year. So I don't know. I mean, I think that last night was a case of people just buying into, Allen's elbow, this mystery illness that was going through their room. And all of a sudden, the Patriots might not be too bad because they should have won the game against Minnesota. And Mac Jones actually had a good game. So I think a lot of us got sucked in. I mean, I stayed off the game. Luckily, I did bet the under. But, again, like the Bills are good. I mean, the Bills have been good all year. I don't think that we should discount them just because they won some games by closer margins than they should have. Or, maybe they had like one loss in there, but to the Jets, which is, really legit defense. So, no, I think last night was more about the Bills being good than anything else. Some people got sucked into the Patriots maybe again, but that offense has been up and down. Just basically passing the ball to running backs. It seems like the only thing they want to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that the Bills have, again, expect the Bills bandwagon to fill back up really quickly after last night.
I mean, hell, Pierce, that first touchdown they scored last night, I mean, that was a defensive player who was on the field. That was his first offensive touch in his career.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game. I did watch that highlight via the DK Live Twitter account. That was pretty impressive. He looked pretty fast. I don't really know much about him other than that, or much about the game. I put my kid to bed and watched a little bit of a Korean action film. Cool. I don't need to see the Bills anymore. I don't need to see the Patriots anymore. I know who they are. I know what they've got. This game earlier in the season might have been cool and exciting, but I've seen enough Thursday night football games this year, and I've seen those teams play enough this year that set that one out.
Yeah. Also, Bill 7-1 this season when Josh Allen has 1 or 0 turnovers, 2-2 when he has multiple. He had a couple of those games. There were some really ugly red zone turnovers here, which was one of Zach Wilson's issues, but we don't have to worry about that anymore because the Mike White hype train, we're all on board this thing here, dudes. The Jets are back on track with the former Nickelodeon most valuable player under center. The Vikings also recalibrated a little bit with the Turkey Day victory over the Pats. Minnesota 3-point favorite at home. That spread too high or too low, Jeffrey?
It's just right. I mean, what have the Vikings done to earn to be big favorites here? I mean, they again, we just finished talking about them. This is a pass defense where they just made Mac Jones look like, people were bringing back the Brady Jones comparisons after that game. This is not a good secondary. They have coverage issues. They're going up against a Jets team who, let's not forget, they do have some elite wide receiver talent on the outside. Obviously, Garrett Cole work in the middle too. I think this is another game where Mike White could potentially go off. So no, I'm actually expecting a little bit of a higher paced game here. And I think that, 3 points, that sounds about right to me. I mean, I do think the Vikings will probably prevail. They always seem to squeak out the victory in these spots, whether it's because of a fortuitous call or Justin Jefferson just doing something that, makes us wonder if he's even from this planet. But no, I think Mike White probably sees some continuation here. It's a really bad pass defense. They allow a ton of yards, ton of receptions to the wide receivers, and they don't have the depth after Patrick Peterson to keep up with guys like Elijah Moore on the outside. So I think Mike White keeps going. I think it's a close game. I think 3 points is about right. And I'd probably even side with the Jets if you're getting the 3 points or even 3.5.
Where do you sit on this one here, Piers? Jets 5-4 ATS as an underdog this season.
I'd say this number's a little too low. The Vikings no longer, I don't even know if last year they were an elite defense or even an above average defense, but Mike Zimmer's gone. So the defense definitely has taken a step back. And the offense has improved with Minnesota going with an offensive minded head coach and bringing a new offensive coordinator. And we're seeing that on the offensive side, but they're not really separating or at least closing out games. Everybody hangs in there with the Vikings because the defense just can't seal the deal. Jeff alluded to that they just seemingly always get this break at the end of the game, but they're always needing that break because they cannot pull away. They can't close the door. And I don't think they're going to close the door on the Jets. I don't know if we want to get too excited about Mike White. Mike White had some really good performances last season. He beat the Bengals. He threw for 400 yards, did a lot of checkdowns. They've got weapons that we're all excited about, but they still don't really have much of a rushing game, although Zonovan Knight might kind of have a breakthrough in DFS this week. The offensive line, it's questionable. Sure, they should be able to move the ball against the Vikings. The real story is the defensive side. The Jets have a good defense, and this really reminds me of last week, the Thanksgiving matchup, and the week before that, where the Vikings, despite their record, not a big favorite, are actually underdogs against the Cowboys, and they lost to the Cowboys. They got destroyed by the Cowboys. Yeah. And the key to beating the Vikings is pretty simple. You just get pressure on Kirk Cousins. He's holding the ball too much. Most teams, they just blitz left and right, 15 to 20 blitzes per game. That translates to about 25 to 30% pressure rate. Cowboys, I think, blitzed 4 times, and yet they still got a 40% pressure rate on Kirk Cousins. That's kind of a boss mode move. The Patriots tried to replicate that last week. They didn't blitz at all, and they didn't get any pressure at all. We go to the Jets. The Jets are 30th this season when it comes to blitzing, so they don't blitz, similar to what the Cowboys did, but they get a lot of pressure. I think the defense is going to carry the day for the Jets. And it's not going to be so much about Mike White, but that Jets defense will lead the upset.
Yeah, I feel like the matchup between Justin Jefferson and Sauce Gardner is like worth the price of admission already. But Minnesota does have many more options around Kirk Cousins there at home. Hey, Pierce, 2 of your favorites facing off in Detroit, babe. Lions hosting America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I mean, this is Pierce's Super Bowl pick.
It's a cat fight. Get it? Meow. All right. So this game has the second highest total on the board. So it's currently sitting at 51 here on the DK Sportsbook. I actually almost feel like this is too low, Pierce. What do you think?
I do too. But if there was ever 2 teams capable of letting us down, it would absolutely be the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, just think about this. We're expecting a bunch of points. We're expecting that from teams who have a history of not fulfilling expectations. So if this thing turns out to be, I mean, they're both very capable of just turning the ball left and right, turning it over, not completing drives. I mean, we're expecting them to move the ball. We're expecting them to get the ball into the end zone and just shoot out. It is kind of really crazy if we can just dial back our nonsense. Say, wait, are we really? But, sometimes it's hard to turn it off. And we look at what Detroit's been doing. We look at what Jacksonville's been doing. Jacksonville's putting the points on the board. And even against good opponents, they're keeping it within a score. They've been on the verge all season, really, with the new head coach of really stepping it up. And we saw last week, I mean, maybe that was it at the end of the game in that fourth quarter where Trevor Lawrence, it finally clicks for the offense. The chemistry finally kicks in and this team is ready to go full throttle for the rest of the season. Maybe, or maybe they turn back into the old Jags. Detroit's offense has been very good, very solid. I mean, they went through a lot of different changes. They've had guys come and go, different running backs in and out. Hawkinson is gone. They've lost receivers during the season. They've got the receivers back, and yet they're still putting up plenty of points. And then on the other side, the defenses don't play well. It should be high scoring. But all right, so I'll just remind you, it's Lions and Jags.
All right. So, Jeff, I had a buddy of mine, is a Lions fan, send me this fun little nugget about a Jaguar and a lion, if they would actually fight in nature. So it says, with its huge size and power, the lion would overwhelm and beat the Jaguar. That doesn't mean the Jaguar can't get away if it decides to retreat early in the fight. The Jaguar is much faster than the lion, but it will still lose the fight. So that said, is this total too high or too low?
That sounds super scientific. Look, I pretty much am going to echo everything Pierce said. You don't have to bet this game. Like, this is not the spot that you need to go all in on. At the same time, you look at how these two teams are built. Both offenses are actually pretty solid. They're both ranked in the top, above average in offensive DVOA in terms of like passing and rushing. And their defenses are the exact opposite, especially the Jacksonville secondary, which is maybe, if they're not like the worst in defensive pass DVOA, they're bottom 5. So the Jacksonville rush defense is pretty solid, but we've seen them, been had as well at certain points and give up big games. I think that the offenses do eventually win out here, but again, it's the Jaguars and the Lions. Like, you don't need to bet the over here or smash it. You want to sprinkle in a little over action? Sure. I do think that's where I would side. I mean, I think that the offenses win out. I think it's a very good matchup for Trevor Lawrence and even for Jared Goff and players like Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm expecting points. I'm completely ready to be disappointed and for this to be 17-14 or something and one of the uglier games on the slate. But, 51.5. Again, I just don't know how these defenses are going to stop anything. We've got legitimate skill players on each side. You got Trevor Lawrence playing well. I think that eventually the offenses win out here and we probably get to the over.
All right, so let's go to Ryan Tannehill here, guys. And the reason we're doing that is because he has not hit his over rushing yards prop like once this year. So 8-0 to the under. That total against the Eagles, it's a beefy 8.5. And the Eagles have allowed more than 8.5 rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks, 7 times this season? This is a trend you're riding, Jeff? Or is there another rushing prop that's too high or too low in your eyes?
I mean, I don't need to necessarily go after Ryan Tannehill here and try to catch the proverbial falling knife and guess when he's going to all of a sudden start running again. It could be this week. I actually think that it's probably a good chance it's this week. The Eagles' rush defense is kind of just not good in all areas right now. They're allowing just broken plays. So would I be shocked if Ryan Tannehill took off for 15 yards or something on a 1 carry? Absolutely not. I don't think it's a terrible bet. I would rather in this game, what I definitely recommend is betting the over on Derrick Henry's receiving prop. Last time I looked on DraftKings, it was 13.5 yards. Derrick Henry as a receiver is having his best season ever. He's averaging over 13 yards per catch. His targets, he's already got 21 catches, which is his season best. And we've still got like 6 games to go. He's running more routes. He's just catching more ball. And I think that actually feeds into why Tannehill isn't running the ball as much, because instead of calling these designed quarterback sneaks, they're dialing up some more screens for Derrick Henry. And you look at what the Eagles have done, allowing over 30 yards receiving to 2 running backs last week. I think Derrick Henry, this prop is way too low right now. So give me Derrick Henry over 13.5 receiving yards. That's the prop I do like. Again, it's probably a good spot for Tannehill to run a bit, but he's dealt with some injury issues this year.
Yeah,
that's probably built into a little bit why he's not running. But let's just keep targeting Derrick Henry. He's involved as a receiver right now.
I mean, Pierce Tannehill season high rushing yards for a single game, 12 yards. Ooh, baby.
Where did the producers find this one? I
don't know. I love it. I actually love this one. I saw it in there. I said, producer Drew's kicking ass today, man. This is, we're getting weird. It's a Friday. We talked about everything else throughout this week. So now we're diving into, right, Tannehill rushing props.
Yeah, I love it. I do. I think the amount of work he had to do to find this bet or how he got down this rabbit hole, kudos to him, because this is not one that just pops up on the screen. This is, the work of, I'm going to search through every quarterback's rushing.
He's very good at his job. He's good at his job.
Good. And to get those stats and those trends.
He also says it was the most profitable quarterback rushing prop too. That he just slacked me that. So again, we're just sitting here trying to make people money, Pierce.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do it. And so I'm not going to avoid the question. I'm going to take a firm stance and I'm going to say under on this. 47 total rushing yards this season for Tannehill, but he has rushed the ball 26 times. That's quite a few attempts, basically 3 attempts per game. It gives you 3 chances against an Eagles defense, as Jeff mentioned, that's not very good against the rush, although I don't know really when we have a rushing quarterback, scrambling quarterback, how much rush defense really factors in. I think if you look at one of his most recent games against the Colts, their defense that kind of lays back and they'll allow these quarterback rushes, and he had 5 attempts. And in those 5 attempts against the Colts, too, again, they lay back, they'll give up these short runs. He still just hit 10 yards. He just barely went over with 5 attempts. 3 attempts against the Eagles. As Jeff mentioned, he's not as athletic as he once was. We don't know the complete extent of his ankle injury, but he did miss some time. I'll take the under. I mean, the trends, I think the knife's going to keep falling. Okay.
How about the Dolphins, dude? They've got a pretty good points trend going here. So they've gone over 30 points their last 4 games. Tua's gone over his passing yards prop in each of those contests as well. So his passing total, last time we checked, 273.5. Too high or too low here, Pierce? Are you looking at another passing prop this weekend?
Too low. It's too low. Don't bet unders. Or go underneath on any of the. The only thing that's going to bail you out is if the Dolphins absolutely smash someone and they pull their guys out a little sooner than they did last week. But even then, they left Tua in plenty long enough. I mean, this game was out of hand in the second quarter, and he still threw the ball 36 times. And he threw the ball 36 times against Houston, a team that you're supposed to just run the ball against Houston. And yet Miami and Mike McDaniel went out there and said, now we're just going to keep firing the rock left and right. They're just going to keep doing that. Tyreek Hill is I just want to take time to remind people that, yes, I did predict that Tyreek Hill would not be traded, and that blew up on my face. It was embarrassing. But I was right.
One of the greatest moments of the show.
Oh my God, dude. That was so great.
He should have never traded him. But let me also remind people that Jeff Ulrich said that Tyreek Hill was going to be a bust, and he signed this new contract, and he wasn't going to be motivated.
Okay, well, I specifically said bet the under on Tyreek Hill receiving touchdowns. And you know what? I'm still in line to hit that, pal. So why don't you just calm down? Yeah. You got 4 receiving touchdowns.
I don't know if we all anticipated, McDaniel actually fixing Tua or getting him like on track. No one believed Tua was going to be the way that he is now this season.
No one did.
Okay, so Jeff Ulrich, what do you think? Hey, my only thing is this. So Pierce, it sounds like you think the Dolphins are just going to go in there and like roll over the 49ers. The Dolphins offensive tackles here, Jeff.
If anyone knows how to beat him, it's going to be McDaniel.
Yeah. Hey, listen, no argument there. I was just clarifying your comments. So Jeff, the Dolphins offensive tackles, they're hurting, and that's not really a good development though for Tua against like Nick Bosa and company, right?
Yeah, I'm a little wary of the spot for Miami, to be honest. Thinking a lot about this game last night, I really think that the San Francisco is going to have a game plan here, and the game plan is going to be, we're going to run the ball, we're going to control the clock, and we're going to keep this Dolphins offense off the field. And I think it's going to work. I'm a little bit wary. Again, like this is a spot where the projections all say this total's way too low. You should be smashing the over. And I'm like, I can't sit here and say he's gone over this total easily in each of his last 4 games. The offense is rolling, but San Francisco, man, like they're built a little different. This is a team that's just really good with the pass rush. Their defensive line can dominate games. Their offensive line can dominate games too. And if they start getting pressure to Tua, like you said, and you get a couple quick 3 and outs, you're going to see some long drives put together, and this game is just going to be over before you blink. So I think that San Francisco wins this game, and I think it's going to be lower scoring than people think. That's the way I'm looking at it. I think that Kyle Shanahan knows what he's going up against, and Mike McDaniel. That's the other thing. And I think he knows how to counteract it, which is just don't give him the ball. And let's get Christian McCaffrey, who's, by the way, is now fully healthy, said he dodged a issue with his knee. I know Elijah Mitchell's out, but the running back factory in San Francisco will produce some kind of creative player out there to back up McCaffrey. So I'm looking at this as being a contrarian spot. I'm going to roll with San Francisco. I think this game goes under as well. And you don't have to bet the under on Tua. I think this is just one where I'm going to lay off, but I'm not going to bet the over either.
Okay, let's bring it home here with an AFC Championship rematch, gentlemen. So Bengals Chiefs, total sits at a week 13 best, 52.5 points on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Too high or too low, Pierce?
Too low. We talked about this earlier this week. The Chiefs defense, they don't just implode when they go on the road, but when the Chiefs defense is on the road where they don't have that Arrowhead advantage, they're just not quite as good. That forces the offense to step up. And guess what? Mahomes and Andy Reid can step up. Another thing, Cincinnati's defense is more of a system defense. If you look at how their cornerbacks grade out, it's not very good. And if anyone's going to exploit this system, I think it will be Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And we've seen them do that last year, get plenty of points. I mean, if you even just watch the first half of that playoff game, Kansas City was just rolling on this team. If the Bengals don't get pressure on Mahomes, then he can absolutely chew them up. And I also expect Jamar Chase to return in this game. I don't know if we've got anything official on that, but this game just seems like there's going to be all kinds of fireworks. Very exciting game. Everyone should be tuned in.
Yeah, Jeff, would the return of Jamar Chase impact your decision here?
Sure. Absolutely, it helps. And I don't even think it's necessarily that Jamar Chase is going to go for like 150 yards. I think he's just going to open up the field for T. Higgins, who's averaged 16 yards per catch without Chase in the lineup. The Bengals have 2 wide receiver ones. I'm drinking the full Kool-Aid here. This game is going to be the best game of the year, in my opinion.
Hell yeah.
53 points. It's way too low. You've got just 2 quarterbacks who are absolutely dealing right now. Pierce mentioned, the Bengals need to get pressure on Mahomes. If you don't get pressure on Joe Burrow, he's going to absolutely carve you up. He's first in yards per attempt. He's first in completion rate when he gets 2.5 seconds to throw or more. 2.5 seconds. That's all he needs. And the Bengals O-line, by the way, since that embarrassing loss to the Browns have been very, very good. So if Kansas City is not getting pressure here either, with Jamar Chase back and T. Higgins playing the way he is, like, there's not going to be any stops on either side of the ball. And I agree, like, Mahomes will find a way here. It's just going to push Kansas City, if the Bengals do get going, or if Jamar Chase breaks a big one, to start tossing the ball more as well. So no, I don't think that the defenses here they're solid units. And like Pierce said, like, they're kind of system units, both of them are, but I don't think they're going to be able to overcome what is just, two great quarterbacks, an improving offensive line on the Bengals, and then just wide receiver galore and Travis Kelce on their side shooting up man coverage against the Bengals, who have like a weak linebacker crew still. So give me the over here. I think the Bengals ultimately prevail. I don't know why they're underdogs at home, quite frankly, but I think this game will be super exciting, and I think we'll probably go over the points as well.
I mean, it's huge for them, Jeff, because they're trying to get in the mix here for home field advantage in the AFC. They've won three straight games.
Last thing, like, if you're bullish on the Bengals like I am, take a look at the Bengals Super Bowl odds and Joe Burrow MVP odds. He's plus 1400 right now. If the Bengals win this game, Burrow has a big game. Those odds, at the very least, they could get cut in half. And so I think the Bengals are playing extremely well. This is just a team that has everything going. They got good chemistry. I like their coach. Obviously, Burrow is Burrow. So Bengals, I think it's time to buy in, be bullish on their future right now.
Yeah, impressive, winning 3 straight games without Jamar Chase, who, by the way, torched the Chiefs. Let's not forget, for 266 receiving yards in this game last season. Gentlemen, fantastic work. Look at us. Producer Drew just letting us go because we're pumping out entertaining content for 25 minutes. We're going to take a break, and we're going to do that DFS thing you like around the association. All right, 11 games on the NBA slate tonight. Let's get some of the best DFS plays from 2 of my faves, DK contributor, GarionThorne, DK Nation's Chinmay Vaidya. Let's start in the guards department here, Chinmay. Who is a guard you would roster tonight? Will cost you at least $7,500.
So he's not quite 7,500. He's 7,600. So you're paying up just a little bit here for Charlotte Hornets guard Terry Rozier. He's averaging above 35 fantasy points at DraftKings this season. He's playing heavy minutes with LaMelo Ball still out. And I know he's inefficient. He's really struggled in that department for Charlotte, but the Hornets are not good defensively. So they're going to have to score a ton of points here against the Wizards to keep up. And I expect Rozier to keep chucking. So you're not spending a whole lot here, and you're still getting significant bang for your buck. He's going to play heavy minutes again. And I would back him to have another solid outing.
That's great. All right, Garion, give me a guard over $7,500 tonight, worth rostering.
I just can't avoid Devin Booker at this point. Obviously,
there's 51 points the other night.
Oh, he's been so good, and he's just taking so many shots. He's had at least 24 field goal attempts in 5 of his last 7 games. I guess the worry here would be this game script gets way out of hand, and he's not going to be able to play long enough to hit value. But at the same time, the Suns just blew out the Bulls, and he only played 31 minutes. And like you said, Emerson, he scored 51 points. So at this point, I don't think Booker needs to play 38, 39 minutes to hit his ceiling. It would help. And I guess there's a chance that happens. And maybe some people do stay away because Houston's just that bad. But at the same time, if you're going to be in a matchup where a team is terrible enough to have you win by 20, 25 points and Devin Booker not play the entire fourth quarter, they're probably pretty bad on defense. And that's exactly the case here. Houston, third worst defensive rating in the NBA. They are also top 10 in pace. That is just a perfect combination of factors for someone like Devin Booker to take advantage of. So I don't know if he scores 69 DraftKings points for the third consecutive game, but I think him going over 60 there's a pretty good chance. There's a pretty good chance.
I mean, hell, dude, he was 20 for 25 from the field. And as you mentioned, some of the issues with like rostering guys as good as he is, he didn't even play in the fourth quarter because the Suns had built up such a big lead. Take us to the forward position now, Garrett Bear. Give me a forward north of $7,500. Again, we're paying up here.
So similar kind of situation, I think, tonight for Zion Williamson. There's a little bit of fear that the Pelicans just absolutely beat the brakes off the Spurs, and Zion doesn't necessarily have to play his full allotment of minutes. The interesting thing with Zion, he's coming off 37.4 minutes on Wednesday against the Raptors in a game the Pelicans were up by 20 points in the first quarter. Like, he just set his season high in minutes in a contest that was never in question for New Orleans. So I wonder if they're almost just, for lack of a better term, stretching Zion out right now and seeing what sort of cardio they can get from this guy 2 months into his first season back. So I think right now the Pelicans are still going to be down 2 starters in this game. They're basically swapping CJ McCollum for Herb Jones. McCollum probably not going to play his full allotment of minutes, conditioning concerns coming back from the COVID IL. I don't know. The Spurs are terrible. Again, there's no way to justify that the Spurs are going to hang in this game. They are dead last in defensive rating. They are 7th in pace. So again, a team that just really brings all the elements to the table you want in terms of a DFS matchup. They just have to keep this thing close enough for Zion to play over 30 minutes. And if they do, he's averaging 1.3 DraftKings points per minute across his last 10 games. So again, maybe you're a little worried about the second half of this game, but I think Zion can almost do enough damage in the first half where he makes that $9,000 price tag worth it.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking at his numbers, he's been efficient. He's been dominant, which kind of makes him feel cheap against the team like the Spurs there. Chinmay, where do you want to go here at forward?
I do like the Zion Williamson call even with McCollum coming back. The Pelicans are down Ingram, and McCollum's probably not going to play, his full allotment of minutes, which means Zion's going to take most of the shots there. And even if the Pelicans do blow out the Spurs, I still think, New Orleans wants to see how much run Zion can have early in the season. I'm going back to the Celtics Heat matchup, and Jimmy Butler is expected to play tonight. So I think he's going to have more of a role defensively against Jason Tatum, which gives me a lean on Jaylen Brown. Comes in at around 8K. He's averaging around 41 fantasy points at DraftKings this season. And the Heat, despite getting Jimmy Butler back, are still dealing with a lot of injuries. A lot of their guys are questionable, probable, dealing with little strains here and there. So we don't exactly know what kind of matchup Jaylen Brown is going to have, but I expect Tatum to cool off a little bit, Brown to get a little bit more opportunities tonight. And I think he'll make it worth it for this price tag.
Okay, at center, Chinmay, we're big, we're beefy here, and there are some very pricey guys at the 5. Who would you roster here at center north of $6,500?
It's obviously tempting to take Anthony Davis, given the way that he's played recently for the Lakers, but I'm going to the Suns and DeAndre Ayton. He has had some absolutely monster games over his last 5, and he gets a bad Houston Rockets team tonight. Devin Booker eventually will cool off. I don't know how much he'll cool off, but there will be a little bit of a drop off there, but Ayton just keeps pouring the numbers in. I like the Suns big man tonight against Houston.
Let's see. Am I seeing Pascal Siakam there? Your boy, Garrett Bear? Man, the Nets don't have a whole lot of size up front. We know that. And when he went up against them earlier in the season, 37 points, 12 boards, 11 apples.
I mean, he's in a good spot tonight. I'll be honest. This is a stacked center slate. There are just big name after big name after big name. I'm going to go with Kristaps Porzingis, who's kind of been turning back the clock a little bit in recent games. Had a 41-point effort 2 nights ago. Had 19 rebounds in his most recent game against the Nets. To your point, Emerson, not a team blessed with a lot of interior presence on the glass. I mean, Porzingis, since the beginning of November, is averaging 1.31 DraftKings points per minute. He's really just been fantastic. There's no other way to say it. And Charlotte has been the most generous opponent to opposing big men so far this season. They are giving up the most DraftKings points per game to opposing centers in 2022-23. I just think Porzingis is in a really, really good groove right now. Great matchup. And again, he's less than 9K, which makes sense given like the last 2-year sample we have with Kristaps Porzingis, but he's someone with the potential to be so much more than an 8K player. And I think we're seeing that in recent games.
Yeah, he's really showing those flashes of what he did when he first landed in New York. At least lately he has. How about favorite value play on the board tonight, Gary? And again, 11-game slate. So go ahead, take your pick.
I'm going to go with Jarrett Culver. Remember Jarrett Culver? He was the 6th overall pick in 2019. Basically just never played. He never really made it. Right now, the Hawks are so desperate for just bodies on the wing and in the front court that Jarrett Culver played 30 minutes in their last game. It was only his 3rd game with this organization. He played 30 minutes. There's a chance he starts tonight because they don't have Justin Holiday. They don't have DeAndre Hunter. They don't have John Collins. I would say the one thing that gives me a little hesitation is that Bogdan Bogdanović maybe makes his 2022-23 debut tonight for the Hawks. But even still, this rotation is so desperate for just anyone with a pulse that I think Jarrett Culver is probably going to play around 30 minutes again. And he was really good on the glass, 12 rebounds in those 30 minutes, finished with 29 DraftKings points. At a certain point, you just run into a team. I mean, Miami's been kind of going through this lately, but they just don't have enough dudes. And that's kind of where Atlanta is right now. And Jarrett Culver might have to play over 30 minutes just out of necessity.
Jim, your top value play is who?
Yeah, you could have given me 20 guesses and I couldn't tell you which team Jarrett Culver was on.
Who he play for?
He has not found his way in the league, but he could play heavy minutes tonight, as Garion mentioned. I like Mo Wagner for the Magic. Wendell Carter Jr. is out a couple weeks. Mo Bamba is questionable. Wagner put up 30 fantasy points in about 25 minutes his last time out, and he could get even more than that tonight. The Cavs are without Jared Allen and Kevin Love, so they're a little bit thin in the front court. So I like Wagner to have another, solid outing, and at 5,100, I think that's a solid value play for tonight.
All right, dudes, we're running tight on time, so we got to end the segment. Garion, go do whatever it is you do on a Friday, my dude, up north in the 6. Chime, hang out. Need you for some World Cup best bets coming up. Right after we head over to the studio, we have Jesse Cofield and Julian Edlow hanging out with more on the Sunday Night Showdown presented by KFC.
What's up, guys? Jesse Cofield here, along with DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow. Welcome to this week's Showdown Spotlight presented by KFC. So we have the Colts heading into Dallas as Jeff Saturday's squad looks to rebound from a tough primetime loss on Monday to Pittsburgh. That's going to be a tall order against a Cowboys team that has won 4 of their last 5 games. So Julian, who are you looking to lock into your KFC bucket pick for the week?
Yeah, like you said, Jesse, it's a tough matchup for the Colts here. I'm looking to the Dallas side, but I know this high-flying passing game, they have a tough matchup as well. The Colts have been pretty good defensively. They've actually allowed the fewest fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So I'm going to go to running back. I know Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard kind of shared time last week, and Elliott wound up having the better game. I'm going back to Pollard, who had the bigger games before then, against this Colts rushing defense that ranks below average in terms of fantasy points allowed to the position.
All right, who are you stacking with your bucket pick?
Going a little off the board, we're going to go defense here. Cowboys defense and special teams. They've had 10 sacks in the last 2 games combined, and what are the Colts not doing? They are not protecting Matt Ryan at all. I expect Dallas to get in there and get a lot of pressure, cause turnovers, sacks, and rack up some fantasy points. Maybe they even get into the end zone for us.
All right, thank you, Julian, and thank you guys for watching this week's Showdown Spotlight presented by KFC's $5 Famous Bowl. Get yourself something extra tasty this holiday season, packed with creamy mashed potatoes, crispy chicken, corn, cheese, and gravy, all for just $5. That's finger-licking good.
All right, so the World Cup group stage is the land of upsets, right? But the knockout stage, that's where the best teams in the world assert their dominance with just 16 teams remaining by the start of knockout play tomorrow. This is where the heroes are truly made, Chimney Vadia and AJ Schultz. This is where champions are crowned. Speaking of champions, I'm glad you two are here with us. So before we get into some best bets, I got to ask you, Chinmay, the U.S. gets the result on Tuesday, right? They're moving on to face Netherlands, who, what, plus 1,600 on DK Sportsbook to win the whole tournament. How can the Stars and Stripes deliver an upset here? Please tell us. That's what we all want. What, the U.S. hasn't made it past round of 16? I think they've done it just once in their history.
Yeah, the round of 16 has not been kind to the United States, at least in the past two tournaments, both knockout games in 2010 and 2014. The U.S. goes to extra time, loses in extra time, that first one against Ghana, most recently in 2014 against Belgium. But in the DK Nation staff picks, I actually had this matchup and I had the U.S. advancing. So I do believe that the Americans can get this done. And we've seen some evidence of it over these first three games. They have a really strong midfield with Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams, and they can really anchor that down. Now, we saw in the most recent game against Iran, we saw that Tim Weah, Serginho Dest, Musa, and McKennie, they had something going on that right side. They were creating tons of opportunities, and they can really pressure that. That's a pressure point there for the Netherlands that the U.S. can potentially exploit. Now, how much gas do Dest and Robinson have in the tank? The two wingbacks are being asked to do a lot for this U.S. team. So how much gas do they have in the tank? Can they keep running up and down the field and give the U.S. numbers on counterattacks? And then obviously the big question, the status of Christian Pulisic. Sounds like he's going to play.
Okay.
Will he be at 100%? Who knows? How much run is he going to get? And then this is a point that fans have not been too pleased with, but Gio Reyna and Brendan Aronson have simply not seen the field enough, given the talent level that they've had, at least in past games. It'll be interesting to see how Greg Berhalter uses those guys. But the U.S., they have the talent and they have the formula to upset this Netherlands team. They've played well so far, and they have a little bit of momentum coming in after a thrilling win over Iran.
And Pulisic making it clear yesterday, the injury that he suffered in the previous outing, he did not get hit in the testicles. So he wanted everyone to kind of stop talking and tweeting about his testicles. People who know soccer, AJ, a hell of a lot more than me are calling this a soft draw for the Americans. So, like, how do you feel they stack up against the 8th ranked team in the world here?
I mean, when you look at where they could have ended up, it could have been a lot worse. You know, we could be going up against Brazil or one of these other, France, one of these other top teams. So I agree, probably is a soft draw. I'm honestly a little more concerned about the injury to Josh Sargent than I am to Christian Pulisic, because you're looking at some pretty thin attacking options outside of that. Chinmay mentioned, Brendan Aronson, like, he should be getting minutes, but it seems like Haji Wright is the preferred option. And I'm not sure that's the answer. If Josh Sargent can't go. And so, yeah, I totally agree. And then, of course, the other question is stopping Cody Gakpo. I mean, this is a guy who has put himself in a position to cash in huge when the transfer window opens up here in January. He's going to be making a move, I'm sure. So those are kind of the big question marks for me. I would love to see Giovanni Reyna in the lineup here if Sargent can't go, or even if Pulisic for some reason isn't healthy enough to start. So I think there are some options. We just haven't seen them. And I think it's time to look at something else in the attack here.
Okay, well, speaking of options here, AJ, tons of options of bets that people can make on the DK Sportsbook for this one. So what is your best bet for U.S. Netherlands?
Well, I know I was just talking about the U.S.'s lack of scoring options here, but I think the both teams to score, yes, at plus 100 is a really solid value spot here. I think they should be able to get one. I do think you have to consider Cody Gakpo to score, comes in at plus 180. That's really good value for a guy that's got 3 goals, which is tied for the Golden Boot. But look, let's be honest. What is the bet that I'm most likely going to make on the DK Sportsbook here? It's USA on the money line. Of
Hell
course,
yeah,
at plus
brother.
340.
America.
Am I betting with my head? Probably not. I gotta be consider myself betting with my heart here. But I'm gonna do it. I know everybody else out there listening is gonna do it too. We might as well, because if they win, you don't want to be left behind at plus 340 value.
All right, Chinmay, U.S. has figured out a way to get results, pretty results, ugly results. And I feel like that's reflected here in the clear expectation from bookmakers that goals will be at a premium in this game, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously USA money line is very tempting, and there's going to be a lot of bettors who, bet with emotion here, and AJ mentioned it. And I'll probably also, take USA on the money line. There's just too much value there. And you don't want to be rooting against the Americans in this game. You just don't want to be doing it. But I do think the draw, at least in regular time, carries some value, because that's what the Americans have had the last two knockout games that they've been a part of. And Netherlands, are putting goals in the back of the net. The Americans probably going to have to score one or two to get to that point. So over 2.5 goals is coming in at plus 135 on the DK Sportsbook. So those are two plays that I think are also potential options if you're really not feeling USA money line. USA to advance. So this is just overall in the game, not necessarily regular time, but USA to advance is also plus money. I believe it's plus 170 or plus 175, something like that. So that's another option if you're not feeling a result in regular time.
I mean, Chinmay, how do you feel here about Argentina and Australia? What's your best bet here? Because Australia is in the knockout stage for just the second time in its nation's history. And in Argentina, we know how tough that they made it on themselves with that shocking upset loss to Saudi Arabia, but they have recovered since then.
I'll be honest, it was hard to find some value on this matchup. The odds makers have set the lines really well here. It's very tough to find some value. I think Messi, 3+ shots on target coming in at plus 125. That's probably, on the fringes of hitting there. And Messi is the first goal scorer is coming in at plus 210. There's really not much value on him as an anytime goal scorer. And I know I've touted Lautaro Martinez, but he just hasn't been able to find anything in the final third. So I'm staying away from him in this one. Watch him go for a hat trick or something. But I think Messi getting a lot of shots up is the way to go here, because there's not a whole lot of value on Argentina's total goals unless you're really shooting for the stars, like over 3.5 or over 4.5.
Okay, AJ, you shooting for the stars here, man. What's worth making a wager on in this game?
Well, I do like the player parlay for Messi to score and Argentina to win comes in at minus 120. So I think that is a good way to get some value here. And while I am fully anticipating an Argentinian win here, I like the idea of taking Australia plus 1.5 goals. It comes in at plus 125 value, as long as they can keep it within one, or who knows, maybe they pull off the upset. Maybe they force extra time with the 60-minute draw here. So there are a lot of options in play that you can get value out of that bet while still anticipating an Argentine win.
All right, guys, running tight on time. So we're going to combine these last two questions. Give me your best bet from either England, Senegal, or France, Poland. What do you got, AJ? Which one do you want to share with us?
I'm going to go outside the box here, and I think it is super tempting to take Poland at plus 1,100 here going up against France. Look, I think it's an outside chance of happening, but that value is so high that I think it's worth a sprinkle. So dab a little on there. Take Poland at plus 1,100 just in case it happens. It's been the World Cup of upsets. It might happen again.
Give me your best bet from either one of these Sunday games. Chinmay.
I'm going with a goal scorer for England, but it's not Harry Kane. It's Marcus Rashford. He's coming in at plus 160. And he has been on fire so far in this World Cup. Give me Marcus Rashford as an anytime goal scorer against Senegal coming in at plus 160 on the DK Sportsbook.
All right, good stuff. Chinmay, you look beautiful in yellow there, my friend. Go enjoy your weekend. Have fun watching all the games. AJ, we need you for one more segment here. Let's share some DFS plays with the people. We'll bring on Paul right after this quick break. Final block of the show here, people. We got 3 games on the NHL slate we're going to dive into right now with AJ Schultz. He has returned, and it's a riveting RotoWire duo, actually, because Paul Bruno now has joined the party. So 3 games. We'll get a DFS play. We'll get a best bet from each one here, guys. So we'll keep it moving. So favorite DFS play in the Ottawa Rangers game, Paul, is
Mika Zibanejad for $7,100. He's my top DFS play in this game because I look at the matchup on the other side, and I know he's not going to play against the first line of the Senators. So that means he's going to be opposed by the likes of Shane Pinto, Derek Brassard, and Mark Kastelik. Do any of those guys put fear in him? I don't think so. I don't think they keep pace with him either. So I think that's a big reason why I go for him. He has points in all but one of his last 8 games. He'll make it 8 out of 9 tonight.
all right. Who is atop your DFS list in this game, AJ?
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little showdown strategy here, and this is a strictly contrarian play for this one. It's a big cash or big fail possibility. I like the idea of captaining Cam Talbot here tonight. The Rangers are obviously the heavy favorites, but Shesterkin's looked a little shaky in his last couple of games. Over the month of November, the Rangers have had one of the worst power plays in the league. Like I said, this is a GPP play only for the showdown slate here. It's going to work great or flame out spectacularly.
All right, AJ, give me your best bet from this game then, Ottawa Rangers.
Well, if you want to double down on the Senators idea, I think you go straight money line, Ottawa plus 155, really solid value there. They'll need a goal to pull that off, so you might as well consider Brady Tkachuk at plus 210. But of course, if you think I'm completely off my rocker in taking Ottawa here, then go with the Rangers on the puck line, because that'll give you some value too. But I think the Senators are poised for an upset tonight.
Is AJ completely off his rocker there, Paul?
Of course he is. You know, the form chart for this game was spelled out in their meeting a couple of days ago in Ottawa with a 3-1 win for the Rangers. It was a low-scoring total of 71 shots on goal included there. I expect fewer shots on goal in a low-scoring game once again tonight. And I think that means that I go to the underside of the total for 6.5. I think it's going to be no more than 5. So I think there's big money to be had if you take the underside. And I do think the Rangers are going to win this one, like maybe another 3-1 win.
All right, Paul, we'll keep the New York flavor here cooking. Islanders and Smashville. Your favorite DFS play in this game is who?
Well, I think I'm going to say the same name that AJ's holding on to. There's Juuso Parsonen's made a solid early impression by assuming the center role on the top line for the Preds, and that's between Philip Forsberg and Michael Granlund. He looks like a good gamble early in this season. He's got 5 points in 7 games played. The price is only $4,300. I think it's a very good matchup for him tonight.
Who you rostering in this game for sure, AJ?
Yeah, it's absolutely Parsonen. I think is the strong play tonight. But if you're looking for somebody kind of off the board here, Simon Holmstrom for the New York Islanders is set to play on the first line with Matthew Barzal and Oliver Wahlstrom. He's a super cheap option. Basement, $2,500 cost here. But if he's going to be in that top 6 role with Josh Bailey potentially hurt, there's a possibility he can pick up a couple shots, maybe an assist on a Barzal goal. So he's worth taking a look at tonight.
Okay, so your best bet then in this game is what, AJ?
For that one, I'm looking at the fact that these two teams have not been scoring a whole lot over the month of November. The Predators are averaging less than 3 goals a game. The Islanders are exactly at 3 goals per game. So I like the under here, under 6 at minus 115. I would consider taking the draw out, or the push rather, out of play here and get more value and take under 5.5, which comes in at plus 100.
What's your Nashville Islanders bet, Paul?
Look, both teams have winning records on the season and in their last 10 games as well. But the Islanders are missing Josh Bailey and Kyle Palmieri from their top 6 tonight. That causes me to lean in favor of Nashville because their big guns are not only healthy, but they're firing. Look at what Yossi and Forsberg are doing of late, and you'll see why I take the visitors on the money line to pay plus 135.
All right, boys. Last game here on this 3-game slate that we're going to cover. Favorite DFS play for Columbus and Winnipeg, Paul?
You know what? I think that in this game, you got to go with the Winnipeg Jets goaltending situation. It doesn't matter who's going to go in net. I'm going to wait for AJ and the boys at head office in RotoWire to let me know later today, unless he has the inside scoop. But Hellebuck's listed at $8,300. I expect him to play. He's got 4 straight starts under his belt, and they have a kind of a light schedule right now. But Dave Riddich, who is no longer Big Save Dave, right? AJ, $8,100 there is the price tag for him. I think this is a lopsided Winnipeg win waiting to happen.
Wait a minute. So am I looking at Blake Wheeler here, dude, who came off just coming off a 3-goal outing, AJ?
I mean, that's certainly an intriguing option. Paul, I do have the insider information. It is going to be no Save Dave Riddich going between the pipes here. So I'm a little bit concerned about taking them. And look, in the lead up to this game, Patrik Laine has been trying to undersell this matchup, including saying that he wasn't worried about getting back from injury in time for this game. Well, guess what? He's off IR. He's healthy. I think he had this game circled on his calendar. I expect Patrik Laine to have a huge game tonight going up against the Jets. And I think that's bolstered by the fact that we're going to get Riddich instead of Hellebuck.
All right, boys, bring us home. Best bet for this game, Columbus and Winnipeg, AJ.
Well, Laine may score and have a big game, but that doesn't necessarily mean the Jackets are going to beat the Jets. They've been such a weak team in Columbus here, but with the goaltending matchup here, the fact that Columbus just leaks goals constantly, I like the over in this one at, even though it's at 7 or 6.5 rather, it comes in at -105. But my favorite bet overall is Jets on the puck line. It's only +115 value, which is pretty low for a puck line bet, but I expect the Jets to edge out Columbus in a high scoring game tonight.
Paul, you're up, big boy.
I agree with the call on that AJ just made. I don't like agreeing with AJ very much on this.
I know. I feel uncomfortable when it happens.
But it has to be the call today just because Columbus stinks. I don't care if Patrik Laine's got this date circled on his calendar. That team is ragged and wretched. Meanwhile, the Jets are playing some really good hockey. They're near the top of their division. So take the Jets +115.
Gentlemen, that is how you do what you just did. Appreciate it. Good hanging out with both of you all week long. So we'll catch up with you next week. Have a safe weekend. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the World Cup games. Thanks everybody for watching this Friday edition of The Sweat. 5 o'clock tonight, Friday edition of The Slate. And we'll see everyone in here in studio. NFL Fun Day, Sunday Fun Day, 11 o'clock Eastern time, Sunday morning. We'll see y'all then.